The War of Wind and Moon, a contemporary fantasy serial written and read by Darcy Conroy. Season 1, Chapter 5. "I'm closing up in 10 minutes, Mia," Mrs. Taylor, St Kilda High's librarian, warned. The end-of-day bell had rung 15 minutes ago, but Mia was waiting for the crowds to clear. She'd made it to the end of her first day without running into Julian again, by spending lunchtime and then her double-free period in the library. Still, she couldn't be home too late. Her mother had no classes this afternoon, but a late class tonight, so she'd be home now and want an early dinner. Mia packed up. The 15 minutes had been enough. The lockers in the tram stop were bully-free, and she even got a seat on the ride home. Perhaps she should do that more often. As she reached the front door of her new flat, she saw her mother through the kitchen window, lifting a newspaper-wrapped plate from a box she had perched over the sink. Mia sighed. Patricia was doing what she usually did, unpacking everything at once but not putting anything into the cupboards, just stacking it all onto what little bench space their always tiny kitchens had. Her mother's reasoning was that everything needed to be washed of newsprint before it was put away, which was true, but it was so much easier to unpack, wash, and put away everything from one box at a time. Her mother's way turned the whole kitchen into one of those puzzles with one piece missing. You had to shuffle everything around to get enough space to even reach the sink, let alone make a meal. "Where have you been?" Patricia asked the moment Mia stepped through the door. "You should have been home 15 minutes ago." "Sorry, I was in the library." Mia headed past the kitchen, down the short hall to her bedroom and dropped her bag on the bed. Her mother appeared in the doorway. "The library?" "I was finishing one of the new English books. I've only got 3 left to read now." "You went to the library after school to read for 15 minutes instead of coming straight home?" "No, I was in there already. I had a double free and I was almost finished the book, so I—" "Hang on." Her mother held up one hand. Mia stiffened but managed not to commit the sin of flinching. "You had a double-free period, and you spent it reading in the library instead of coming home to help unpack?" Mia swallowed. She hadn't thought of doing that. I was reading the English books I have to catch up on." Oh, well, that's all right then. It's not like I was here with an entire household to unpack." "But it's schoolwork." Mia was genuinely confused. Now even her school hours weren't her own? "It's a library. You can bring the book home." "Actually, I can't. You can't take the assigned texts home. They're reference only." Patricia's left eye twitched. She folded her arms. "Why must you always lie?" Fear swallowed the surge of anger the insult brought to Mia's chest. "I'm not. Novels are not reference books, Mia. Reference books are dictionaries and encyclopedias. Do you think I'm stupid?" "No, they just put the assigned texts in the reference section. They don't have many and they don't want people to leave them at home when everyone needs them." "Stop lying. You wanted to stay at school instead of helping me. At least admit that." Mia took a deep breath through her nose. "I didn't want to stay at school," she said, fighting the desire to grit her teeth. "I just wanted to do my schoolwork." "And I suppose I don't have any schoolwork I could be doing instead of unpacking? I had a presentation this morning which you haven't even asked about yet, so I haven't had a moment to work on my thesis for weeks. Do you think your high school reading list is more important than my master's degree? Honestly, Mia, what goes through your head?" There was a lot going through Mia's head. Like, "No, I haven't asked about your presentation. I started a new school today and you haven't asked me about that. And yes, I do think my final year of high school is more important than the master's degree you've been working on for 8 years in 5 different disciplines because you keep sleeping with a classmate or a lecturer, and when you break up, suddenly your lifetime goal has always been to study philosophy, not history like it was last year or literature the year before that." What she said was, "I'm sorry, I didn't think." "No, you never do." Patricia shook her head and left the doorway, still talking at Mia as she went up the hall. You know, if you thought even a little about someone other than yourself once in a while, you might make friends more easily. Mia bit down on a response that would only get her in trouble. Not that you're interested, Patricia continued from her bedroom next door, her voice accompanied by the swish and zip of clothes being changed. But my presentation went very well. So well that my young tutor has asked me to dinner after my lecture tonight. Mia closed her eyes and rolled them behind the safety of her lids. He can't be much older than you, Patricia went on, so don't wait up. Mia shuddered. While I'm out, I want you to finish the kitchen. Wash everything before you put it away. We can't even make dinner without some bench space. Her eyes still closed. Mia opened her mouth so wide her lips felt they'd split and pushed out a silent, skull-vibrating scream. Tuck plugged his phone into the TV speakers and set his music playing loud. He had a routine when his mum started her night shift rotations. Music too loud, food too sweet, computer games too late. Just for the one night. It was too close to exams to screw around for all 10 shifts, but he was a strong believer in the philosophy of everything in moderation, including moderation. He danced into the kitchen and swung the fridge door open. Yes! He fist-pumped the air. His mum had left him ebicuts to fry up. They were his favourite Japanese food, patties of prawn and egg coated in breadcrumbs and deep-fried. Hiroko had told him that in Japan, ebicuts was a strictly New Year tradition, but, like most traditions from her homeland, she seemed to take pleasure in flouting it. He went to the cupboard under the sink and pulled out the deep fryer, lifting it to the bench and glancing out the window as he plugged it in. It was getting dark, and the lights in the flats on the other side of the U-shaped building made the sheer white curtains that came pre-installed disappear. Almost directly across from his window, Mia was at her kitchen sink, washing dishes and occasionally sighing heavily, making her white t-shirt tighten. Tuck slid the fryer around the corner of the bench so that he wouldn't be tempted to spy. It didn't work. He glanced across several times as he waited for the oil to heat, and again as he cooked each of the 6 burger-sized ovals until the panko was golden brown. Even after he'd shredded some cabbage and poured some creamy sesame dressing on it to make what his mother called lazy salad, Mia was still washing dishes, drying them, putting them away, and washing some more. When was she going to eat? He was pretty sure she hadn't had lunch. He and his mate Spot was outside the library, and he'd seen her duck inside at the beginning of lunch, and hadn't seen her leave. She wouldn't have been able to eat inside. He took his plate around the island that separated the kitchen from the living room, and perched at it on one of the 2 stools. He cut into a crunchy golden croquette with the side of his fork, and the scent of salty prawns made his mouth water before the forkful reached it. He wondered if Mia liked ebicuts. "Jeez, Tuck," he said out loud. "Leave it alone." She was putting a kettle on now, reaching into the cupboard above it and pulling out a cup noodle, sighing deeply at the cup noodle. Tuck looked at his pile of golden treats, crisp, salty, and juicy. Where was her mum? He stood, flicked off the lights, and stalked up to the kitchen window, peering down at the car space on the ground floor that belonged to Mia's apartment. Empty. If she was eating alone, she wasn't expecting her mother back soon. Moments later, he was knocking at her door. She opened it slowly, suspiciously, but when she saw him, her eyes sparkled, and he felt himself blush. "Hi, Tuck." "Hey, do you like ebicuts?" She frowned. "I have no idea what that is." "It's my favorite Japanese food. Prawns, deep-fried, salt. Not on the soccer coach's list of approved foods. You want to come have some?" "At your place?" she asked. "I saw your mum's car's gone, and my mum's starting a night shift rotation at the hospital. She's left me way too much." Her eyes flickered toward her kitchen. Was she picturing the cup noodle? Then she glanced past him toward his door. She was definitely considering it. But she shook her head. No, it's really nice of you. And the Ebby cats. Her face lit up. Oh, Ebby as in prawn and katsu as in fried? Hey, he said, far too brightly for someone trying to impress a girl. It sounds really yummy, she said, but I've got so much to do here. I've been washing and putting things away all night and I still can't see the bench. Isn't that exactly why you should take a break? He asked. She took a deep breath and met his eye properly for the first time. She smiled, biting her lower lip, and looked at her watch. Tuck could see she wanted to come. Is your mum going to be home soon? He asked. No, she snapped, frowning, but then she softened and let out a sigh. I mean, probably not, but maybe. She's kind of strict. If I wasn't here when... I don't want to risk it, sorry. No worries, he said. It's fine. Thank you, though, she said. Tuck should have left it at that, but he was seized with a sense of injustice. Why shouldn't she stop slaving away for a while and have something decent to eat? Before she could shut the door completely, he said, Do you have any laundry to do? What? Well, in all that unpacking, there must be some clothes or towels to wash, he said. Yeah, there is. Why? Well, you have to go past my door to get to and from the laundry room. He caught her eye with a smirk and felt a rush as she held his gaze and allowed herself to smile as he outlined the idea. Put the load on, bring the basket to my place, and if we see her come back... She nodded. Then I'm just coming back from checking on the washing. See you in 10 minutes? He asked. She grinned. I'll try for 5. He shoved his hands in his pockets and headed home to wait for her. That was Chapter 5 of Season 1 of The War of Wind and Moon, written and read by Darcy Conroy. Once again, thank you for your messages and feedback during the week. I'm loving our emailing back and forth thanks to the Tiny Letter mailing list, and of course reading all your comments on Wattpad and the various social media. Writing isn't a lonely job anymore. I have noticed that many of your questions are quite similar, so I think it's worth collecting them and doing an extra episode just once a month answering those questions for all to hear. For example, lots of you want to know how I came up with the gossips, some of you want to know what kind of microphone and audio equipment I'm using, and even more of you have asked if, when Season 1 ends, I'll put all the podcasts into a single audiobook that you can buy to listen to in one go. And the answer to that is yes, I will. That's my intention all along. And I'll do the same with the text into an ebook. Possibly print too, but I'll let you know more details about that and about the extra episodes down the line. So keep the questions coming in. If you haven't joined the mailing list, you can do so at tinyletter.com/Darcy Conroy. Season 1 continues next week. I hope you'll join me again. Thank you for listening.